Hello, folks. This is Kevin from Good Day, Good Prayers. I hope you're having a good day. Today we're going to talk about a subject that I see regularly in the book of Acts. The book of Acts has 28 chapters, and it's a perfect time to read the book of Acts during the 28 days of February. But what is the subject matter about? What the subject matter is about is something that we are seeing in this day and age. After the raising from the dead of Jesus, he appeared unto the disciples, and when he was taken up into heaven, the disciples began to minister to the rest of the world, proclaiming the name of Jesus, and something that was referred to, and I believe the Church of Antioch was the first time when they were called Christians. Well, the disciples began to move around within the then known countries. They went to the Jews, and they also went to the Gentiles. Now, if you're talking about the Jews and the Gentiles, you're talking about the average man, the average woman, the average child throughout all of the different parts of the then known world. Well, the Jews, the leadership of the Jewish nation, Caiaphas, Ananias, and all those people, wanted to keep their power. They wanted to keep control. And so what did they do? Well, they hired rioters and agitators to follow the disciples. Everywhere that the disciples went, there they would go. And the disciples would preach the gospel of Jesus Christ. And what happened? Well, what happened was that they would get the crowds all mixed up and into a frenzy. And some of the people would believe and some of the people would not. But the Jews, the leaders, that would be the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the scribes, and all of those people, part of the people that were in those days a part of the Sanhedrin, they would get the people worked up so that there was a limited number of people that came to the cross of Jesus Christ. They went about over the period of time that the disciples were here, killing the disciples and making it very difficult for the disciples and any of them that had families. And it was a very tough, a very difficult situation for the disciples. But they continued true to what they had told Jesus, that they would continue to tell the stories of Jesus. They would continue to let people know that he had risen from the dead. And they were out there healing people. Well, I thought it was very, very interesting what was going on. And then I look at today, the same spirit is out there. The globalists and the deep state have hired their rioters and agitators to chase ICE around the country because of the fact that they do not want the illegal aliens taken out of this country. you have to understand something, that it's kind of similar in all retrospect. And the reason that it's kind of similar is because of the fact that in the New Testament, during the time of Acts, the world was going from the old system to a new system, from the Old Testament to the New Testament. The people who were in charge in those days had literally taken over the old system, and they were destroying the human race. There was child sex trafficking, and there was child sacrifice, and there was all kinds of killing for people that didn't cooperate. And the new system, they weren't going to have as much of a handle on. Eventually, the people that were part of the Sanhedrin, the Pharisees and the Sadducees and all the others, eventually they more or less ceased to exist. But unfortunately, the agitators and the rioters also ceased to exist. And that's the way it's going to be today. As we look at the globalists and the deep state, and we see the things that they are doing to try to keep control, we can see that they're quickly losing the battle. We can see that the rioters and the agitators, you go after a soldier, an ICE agent, whatever it is, they spray that orange film in your face. Well, whether you get that orange film off of you or not, you are now marked. And the people who run Space Force, on their computer system, they know who you are. Even if you wear a mask, they know who you are. And it's going to be a situation. The globalists and the deep state are losing their battle. Even though they won't go willingly, they're losing their battle. And what the situation will be is that the people who are the rioters and the agitators are going to lose the battle as well. The Sanhedrin and all of the people that worked for them back in Acts time, in the New Testament time, wound up losing everything. And that's exactly what's happening today. As the alliance is moving forward, as the alliance is taking over, what's happening? Well, the globalists and the deep staters, the rioters, the agitators, the cabals, the cartels, the Illuminati, and all of the other groups that are out there are losing their fight. They're losing their ability to be able to fight back. And pretty soon, they're all going to either be sitting behind bars or be executed for the things that they've done. Those that will be behind bars will probably spend most of their lives behind bars. The unfortunate part is that they're going to remember a time when they had all of the wealth of the world, and now they're going to be watching the people of the world spending the wealth and using the wealth and becoming wealthier because of the fact that the new system is going to be even greater than the old system. We will have moved from the SWIFT system and the greenbacks, which are basically fiat non-backed currency, to the quantum system, where the currency will be backed by precious metals. And the wealth and the ability to grow wealth is going to become astronomical. And I think that's going to be the interesting part of it. So there is a parallel. It may not be a gospel parallel per se, because Acts is not really one of the so-called gospels. But it is a very important thing that we understand that the things that were happening then in the spirit of that time then is very similar to the time now. And the people who were on the dark side then lost everything. The people who are on the dark side now are also going to lose everything. This is Kevin from Good Day, Good Prayers. Be praying for those people that are trying to help. And also be praying for our president and his family, because he's got a very important job. All the people that are working with him have a very important job. But I want you folks to have a good day.